In this video, I'm going to show you how to install guest additions to your newly created Debian VM. Now, the guest additions have a number of useful features, but it's the extra support for video that I find most useful. It is possible to change the screen resolution without installing guest additions, but I recommend that you install it. And it's not strictly required, but you will learn a few useful things along the way as well. The first thing I'm going to do is exit scale mode using the host key and C. And what that does is it restores this menu here. And what I can do is go to the devices menu and go to insert guest additions CD image here. You'll see that Debian tries to automatically run this CD, and you can click run if you like, but it won't work. You'll get an error message like that. We're going to do it manually, and we're going to do it using the terminal. I'll switch back to scale mode now. Once you're in the terminal, I want you to switch or change to the media directory /media. And in there, if you use ls, you'll see the contents of that directory. I'm going to change directory to CD-ROM 0. CD-ROM is just a link to CD-ROM 0. And in there, ls again. And you'll see some files in there. This is the contents of the guest additions CD that has been inserted into the virtual optical drive. The file that you want there is the VirtualBox Linux additions.run file. And I want you to copy that to the temp directory, like so. And then change to that temp or temporary folder, ls again. And there's some other random things in there, but you can see there at the bottom is our file, VirtualBox Linux additions.run. And I want you to run that file with a // and then the file name. Okay, it says this program must be run with administrator privileges. In other words, we need to use sudo and run that as root. Make sure that when you're running programs like this, installers, just make sure that you read all of the information. You may not understand all of it, but you can usually find bits that you do understand, and there's plenty of times that you'll be able to copy and paste things into a search engine and find out what's going on. I'm just going to change the size of this window a little bit so that you can see the text a little better. Let's have a look at what this is saying. Now, it says here, kernel headers not found for target kernel. So what is a kernel, and what are these kernel headers that this VirtualBox installer is talking about? Put simply, the kernel is the core or heart of the operating system. It talks to or interfaces with all of the hardware that is connected to the computer, like the display, the keyboard, the mouse, the hard drive, the motherboard, the CPU. The term comes from the inner part of a nut, like a peanut or a pistachio nut. You will often hear reference to shells in hacking and just computing in general. The shell is the part of the operating system that you, the user, can interact with and issue commands to, whilst the kernel is not meant to be interacted with directly. Now, VirtualBox needs something called the kernel headers to be made for the guest additions installation to complete. The kernel headers are the part of the kernel that tell other programs like VirtualBox how to interact with the kernel. The Linux kernel headers are not usually installed as standard when you install an operating system like Debian, because they're not usually needed. So you will need to manually install them. You can check the version of your kernel by typing uname A, and you'll see here that we've got some version information. And actually, that corresponds with what VirtualBox, or rather what VirtualBox Guest Additions found. And what we need to do is install the headers for that version of the kernel. I'm going to perform a search now using apt search and then Linux headers. And notice I didn't need sudo for that because I'm not making any critical changes there. I'm just searching for packages. There's a lot of results there. Let me try uname A again, and then sudo apt search Linux headers, and I'm going to copy that. Shift Control V to paste. And we've got one result. So that is the one. I can do sudo apt install Linux. I'm using tab here. And then we will just copy that again. Shift Control V to paste. Okay, yes, I want to continue. And we'll just sit back and let that install. Make sure you stay hydrated. I'm going to try running that Guest Additions installer again. Now, the error message has changed a little bit. It says here the system is currently not set up to build kernel modules. Please install the GCC make Perl packages from your distribution. Well, that's quite easy. We just need to do sudo apt install GCC make Perl. Those are 3 different packages. Yes. Okay, that was quick. You want to press the up arrow to see previous commands. There we go, that's the one I want. Try it again. Seems to be taking a little longer to complete this time, which is reassuring, and we've got this message here, building the modules for kernel 4.19.0 and so on. Your kernel version number, when you're doing this course, will be different, or it almost certainly will be different. So just make sure that you apply what I've done to your own individual settings. What we need to do is restart the system now to make sure those changes take effect. I'm going to restart the system now. I always get that wrong. Reboot. And in theory, if I press Control F now, or sorry, right Control, the host key, and F, I should enter full screen mode and the resolution will automatically change, giving me an ideal working environment. When you manage to get this working, I advise you take another snapshot of your VM. After you've got Guest Additions working, you might try and log in and see that full screen mode isn't actually working, but if you sign in, give it a few moments, and then what you will find is that full screen works.